Danny Flexon here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by my good friend and Sun boxing reporter, Wally Downes Jr. Wally, how are you, mate?
Good, thank you, Daniel. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. It was very formal, wasn't it? I started it in that vein. We're here outside Shane McGuigan's gym in Leighton. Caroline Dubois is the main attraction today. From what you've seen so far, women's boxing has an impressive but brief history. How far can she go? How good is Caroline Dubois?
Really, as far as she wants, probably in multiple weights. It's just so excited about her and what she can do. It is difficult sort of in the early stages of some of the young female careers because there aren't really journey women for them to go up against. So there have been a couple of Caroline's early fights where her, not that they're wasted, you know, she has to fight and build up her record, but I know from the sparring that she does that her spars are incredibly tougher than her opponents. And when there are really one-sided fights where she wins every round and the opponent looks mismatched, I think that can sometimes be a little bit detrimental. But again, you can't throw into super fights straight away. We're lucky to have seen some real super female fights recently. So it's a bit different to when you can get a young lad, you know, like Adam Azim, who's in there. You can get him 10 fights against brilliant journeymen. They may have 100 losses, but they're incredibly talented boxers. That just because of the time frames that we don't really have that in female fighting yet. Even some great tough journeywomen like a Beck Connolly, you know, the fights do look one-sided against these girls who have great amateur careers and are coming through. So incredibly excited about Caroline. Her and Daniel, you know, it's an incredible family, what they've done so far together. And I think, you know, just someone who's growing up. I remember going to the Peacock to interview Daniel right at the beginning. It's like 5-6 years ago. She used to be on the exercise bike, was really timid and shy. And even at the beginning of her career, quite timid and shy. Now I see her turn up to events and shows, you know, walking in like a celebrity, fighting like that, you know, doing Sky commentaries and stuff, looking like a real confident young woman, and it's exciting. And I think there is no limit to what she can do.
Caroline, of course, tops the bill next week, but we've got a big event this weekend. Queensbury put on the big rematch with Joe Joyce and Zhilei Zhang. It's kind of a lot of publicity about the first fight, then it quietened down, and now I think the excitement's building up again. What can Joyce do differently? What must he do differently?
It's interesting. We had a chat with Zhang in the week, and you know, as you know, southpaws are hard work at the best of times, but heavyweight southpaws are incredibly rare. The sparring is tough. That's why you see someone like Moses Atalma, you know, he goes around with everyone because everyone needs him. And I asked Zhang to train for a heavyweight southpaw is hard enough, but when you've just suffered a defeat like that, really underperformed, how much time is this enough time for him to learn all the lessons that he needs and rights the wrongs? And he's utterly confident that there's nothing he could have done, and that also Joe will be really affected by that first loss, you know, a punishing loss, a stoppage loss. And, you know, I really hope that Joe accidentally lost, I hope he accidentally lost loads of weight, you know, that it wasn't, it seems like it was just training in hot weather and maybe a few diet things. I think he worked with Larry Wade for the first time. Hopefully it was just an accident and he's realised that he's a much better fighter when that's on. From the amateurs, you know, he went in with Usyk, didn't he, in the Boxing Super Series? He would have boxed southpaws. You know, he looked like a man who hadn't boxed the southpaw in his life. But again, you know, we saw that with AJ with Usyk, and he's admitted it. He hated it. He couldn't do it. They're hard to find in the heavyweight division. So hopefully he's had plenty of sparring, and I hope he does do it. And it will be a huge turnaround for Joe because he has said he conference called with all the reporters. That it really harmed his confidence, that he's got so used to going into dressing rooms where your celebs and your sort of outsiders are in there and they want to take him out, and you go into that dressing room when it's silent and it's just your friends and family. You learn who your good friends are, and hopefully that hasn't chipped away at Joe because he's not big, loud. He's big, but he's not loud and leery. He's not flash, you know. So I hope he's got everything in the arsenal to right his wrongs, but it will take some doing because I thought Zhang was excellent. You know, I thought he got a tough decision in Saudi against Hrgovic. So I'm really looking forward to it. Should be a great show, great fight.
Just recently we saw Chris Eubank Jr. get what was probably the best win of his career in the revenge victory over Liam Smith. Talk almost immediately turned to the delayed, or maybe will never happen, fight with Conor Benn. Conor Benn still hasn't got a Boxing Board of Control licence. I believe he's got a licence from America, so he can compete there. Feasibly, theoretically, here under a foreign licence, although the board may be unlikely to approve that. What do you make of the whole situation, how it's panning out? And do you think it's right to talk about that fight, negotiate that fight while this cloud remains?
Well, firstly, I thought Eubank's performance of his career absolutely unbelievable. I know Liam said, I don't have any excuses, these are not excuses, but he did have a litany of reasons for why. And to be fair, Chris did in the first one. So I think we should just both look at those and say 2 excellent performances. If only Chris had been performing like that for the last 10 years, God knows what he might have achieved by now. So hopefully it's not too late. And listen, I'm a tabloid boxing reporter, so once Chris had talked about the win, I'm asking him about Conor Benn. So for me to say we shouldn't, for us to say we shouldn't talk about it, we ask. So should it happen? Listen, what I find so bizarre, Dan, is that every time that Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, DAZN get some good news about Conor Benn, or even any news, they say, right, we've learned our lesson from early on. We were too aggressive, we were too forward, we put too much pressure on the ball. And within 10 seconds, they're doing it again. 1 minute they're saying he's cleared. Conor Benn is cleared, Conor Benn is cleared. He isn't cleared. He was cleared to fight, and they could still appeal. And then they did appeal. So I just find that the whole campaign baffling in that they'll come out some days, and not doing this Conor. I don't think Conor's been too bad, really. He's been quiet for a long periods of time, but I just keep seeing interviews from their side where they say, it's all done with... And then they'll do another interview where they say, we made mistakes, we shouldn't have done that. I cannot understand why people can't just be quiet, let events play out, because putting pressure on the board has backfired constantly. Doing interviews, the Piers Morgan one, I think, has backfired massively. I cannot work out why they don't let things play out, because every time they have pressured a board or a sanctioning body, they work with the WBC. The WBC gave them ended that investigation on their behalf, but that backfired because of the reason they gave. I cannot work out why just biting our lip, being quiet for a little while, and if they're going to go down the Florida route, that is a viable option for them to do, a legal option for them to do. If Conor goes and fights in Florida, we cannot fight against that. We can't change the rules. How financially handy that will be for anyone, Conor can sell out any venue in England, take them to Florida for 8-10 rounds. That's going to take a bit of hit in the pocket, but. Chris has gone on record and said he will. It's an English fight. He will not talk about it unless it's in England. So until there is a hearing, we keep just talking about a hearing. They have so much evidence to clear Conor. Why not have a hearing?
And just finally, if it does happen next at 160, who wins?
Honestly, no idea, mate. Off of that, you'll ask you. I mean, Conor has had how long's Conor been at the ring?
Over a year.
Well over a year, and it was one. He wiped the geezer in at a round. So he's had 1 round in 2 years. If the fight gets made, it won't happen for 6 months. Conor could potentially go into that huge super fight with 1 round in 6 years, or maybe he might get a few in Florida. Chris has just put on the performance of career, so I don't know who would win. But if Conor were to beat the Chris Eubank who just really took Liam Smith apart, it would be sensational. But yeah, I just think everyone should just now be quiet, stop trying to put pressure on. You can't pressure the board to make a decision if you're not going to give them the information they need to make a decision. So it's just frustrating to see every interview, no matter if it's about a great show coming up or a great show the week before. And again, I do the same job you do. We have to ask. I just think it sours every show that's just happened, every show that happens next. And yeah, I can't wait for it to all be over, Dan.
Great stuff, Wally. Really appreciate it, mate.
Cheers, son.
Thanks, mate.